Welcome to our annual Remembrance Day service being held here at BCS on Friday, November 9th, which is, of course, our final day together as a community before departing for a week's break. Throughout the world, we are conspicuously 2 days early, as the actual date for Remembrance Day, or Armistice Day, as it is also known, is November 11th. A brief history lesson reminds us that, that back in 1918, an historic moment for the peace of our country and globe occurred. In fact, with an artful awareness, the armistice to end the battles of World War I was signed at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. November 11th, 1918, an armistice, which is different than a treaty. A treaty is the agreement of all of the details of the end of a war. An armistice is a call for the fighting to stop, a ceasefire. It was then 8 months later, on June 24th of 1919, when the Treaty of Versailles was signed to officially end the war. It is hard for us to even imagine back to what it was like to be a student at BCS back in those days. If we were sitting in here, we'd be ducking basketballs, as this space was the gymnasium. And it wasn't university, but rather going off to fight in the war, that it was in the forefronts of the minds of the senior students. It is appropriate for us to take the time to try to imagine how it might have felt to know your country. The world, in fact, is calling on you to serve. And that you and most of your dearest friends would answer that call. And more than half would lose their life in that struggle. an understatement would acknowledge it was a different time. Bringing it back to us, it is fitting that a ceasefire of schoolwork coincides with this day, to give us this time of reflection, of remembrance for the sacrifices made by soldiers and civilians of all the countries that we represent. Hopefully, it makes us appreciative of the sacrifices made in the past, as well as lending perspective to some of the challenges that we navigate in our lives today. Although our service here today is in true Canadian fashion, this day, like us, spans the globe and is being observed in over 25 countries throughout the world. In honor of the many Canadian boys of BCS who have fallen in war, please stand for the presentation of colors and singing of O Canada.
During the early days of the Second Battle of Ypres, a young Canadian artillery officer, Lieutenant Alexis Helmer, was killed on the 2nd of May 1915 in the gun positions near Ypres. An exploding German artillery shell landed near him. He was serving in the same Canadian artillery unit as a friend of his, the Canadian military doctor and artillery commander, Major John McCrae. As the brigade doctor, John McCrae was asked to conduct the burial service for Alexis because the chaplain had been called away somewhere else on duty that evening. It is believed that later that evening, after the burial, John began the draft of his now famous poem, In Flanders Fields. In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
I attended King's Hall College from 1935 to 1941. I was a prefect during my senior year. I was very active at King's Hall and participated in many extracurricular activities such as the science club, choir, glee club, and debating. I also played on sports teams like hockey and basketball. People who knew me said that I was a good all-around athlete and a good sport. One teacher said, "She has made a fine prefect whom we all like very much. Pam, my nickname from since I was young, is full of fun and is always on the go. She is an actress of distinction and musical too." Another teacher said, "Her personality will take her far," and it did. I graduated from King's Hall and went on to study arts at McGill University and French at Laval. Later, I enlisted in the Women's Royal Canadian Naval Service, where I met my husband, Timothy Dunn. One of my accomplishments included founding the McGill University Health Center Foundation in 1999. While at school, I gave my all and continued that motto through to my last year in 2008. I was proud to have served my country overseas, just as I served my school and later my community.
I am Edward Archer Gerald Hansen. I entered BCS in Form 4 in 1938. While at BCS, I was active in sports and made the ski team. I also won a medal in gym and was on the track squad. As a sixth former, I was a head boy in Chapman House. I liked to sing and joined the choir where I sang as a tenor. I was also picked for the special platoon for cadets. I trained in the Brockville Officers Training Camp, but because of the surplus of officers, I realized that I might not be sent overseas. I solved this by reverting to the ranks. That is, I gave up my officer's commission and went as a regular soldier. I was posted overseas to Europe before the end of the year. I fought on several fronts and received my lieutenant corporal stripe before I rejoined my unit for the assault on the Gothic Line. I was killed at Rini in the Gothic Line in August 1944.
Hello, my name is Peter Graham Holt. I was born May 31st, 1923. I first came to Bishop's College School in 1935 as a Form 2 student. I quickly became involved in the football, hockey, and downhill ski racing teams. I will now read a poem from my first year at BCS. There is one terrific subject at the school where I do go, with all its awful tenses like amavi and amo. It haunts me and it haunts me when I try to go to sleep, for I study it and study it week by day to day and week by week. I have no time for eating, no chance on tongue to fatten. I am forever studying that dreadful subject Latin. Clearly, my teacher agreed as he said very poor, frequently unsatisfactory. Headmaster's note, we'll have to pull up his Latin. On a more positive note, I excelled at math and English. During my early years, I was ranked in the top of the class on more than one occasion. In my final year, I earned a Grand Hall Medal for debating. I was also one of the few chosen to be a prefect. This helped me earn a special award for good sense, fairness, and devotion to the school. I enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force in June 1941 and underwent training in bombing, gunnery, and flying. I received my wings in Canada in July of 1942. In a letter to the headmaster in 1941, when I had joined the RCAF, I wrote, I missed the purple and white goalposts and the dormitory inspections, the tuck shop and the classrooms and the prefect's room. It smelled like a barroom most of the time, if you remember, sir. I was killed in action May 30th, 1943, while on operations on a Sunday night.
My name is Henry Bertram Price, but all my friends call me Bert. I first came to BCS in September of 1904. I was passionate about many things, including sports and fine arts. I was a member of an extramural chess team with 3 masters in my final year. I loved the cross-country team, and I was awarded the Ottawa Cup, which is presented to the senior boy who plays first in the annual cross-country run. I was also awarded the Greatest Service and MacDougall Awards in my final of the year. My involvement in the school probably explains why I was named head prefect in the years 1908 and 1909. After graduation, I enrolled in McGill Sciences in September of 1909. When the war broke out, I immediately offered myself for service. I received a commission in the London Rifle Brigade, which was one of the first to fight on line. I was in the heart of it all. A deadly struggle had been going on for days, yet I remained cheerful and optimistic. I could not let my boys down. My death came on May 5th, 1915, as I was observing enemy trenches. I was mentioned for special gallantry and service. One of my fellow officers even wrote that I died as a gallant gentleman. Sure, to many, my acts may seem heroic, but to me, I was just one of many to fight for what we believed in.
son of Mr. and Mrs. H.L. Davis. I was born December 11, 1912, and I come from Westmount. I arrived at Bishop's College School when I was in Form 2 in 1923, and left in 1931 as the head prefect. I left with many accomplishments. In 1926, I won the prep scripture and reached the headmaster's list. Then I was lieutenant in the Royal Canadian Army Medical Corps at the outbreak of the war. I was also enlisted for active service with the No. 1 Canadian Neurological Hospital in January 1940 as quartermaster. In my last years, I also helped with the organization of the unit in Ottawa and went overseas with it in June 1940, where I remained until my death in November 1942.
The boys at Bishop's College School who fell in the First World War from 1914 to 1918. J. A. Abbott, W. E. Adcock, Hugh Allen, G. H. Baker, P. I. Baker, S. H. Ball, E. P. Black, E. B. Boswell, V. L. Bureau, D. J. M. Campbell, A. C. M. Doucet, J. D. B. Bonville, A. J. L. Evans, F. R. Fairweather, R. W. Fisk, C. R. P. Fothergill, W. B. Fraser Campbell, John Galt, E. C. Graham, D. F. L. Green, J. M. Greenshields, D. S. Gwynn, M.C., T. S. Hall, F. C. Henniker, K. O. Husband, W. A. Irving, M. A. Jakes, W. J. Jepson, P. F. Keating, C. G. Lavery, J. H. Laird, R. H. Longhurst, H. W. McPherson, N. A. Magor, D.Sc., G. A. Magor, R. F. Markham, Charles S. Martin, M.C., H. N. Matthews, J. L. McLennan, F. E. Morkill, G. C. M. Marlowe, C. W. Park, A. D. Pelton, T. H. O. Fair, H. D. V. Powell, H. B. Price, L. G. Ramsey, Rodney Reynolds, Lennox Robertson, DCM, F. R. Robinson, Alan Rutledge, J. A. P. Scarf, H. A. Scott, W. M. Scowgill, Honorable A. T. Shaughnessy, E. G. Shepard, Hugh Shooter, H. Carrington Smith, C. J. T. Stewart, DSC, H. C. Stewart, DCM, N. C. Stewart, E. A. Whitehead Jr., G. E. D. Wilkinson, A. P. Williams, W. R. Wright, and these masters, E. V. Ironmonger, P. Jake West, and F. C. Yardley.
The boys of Bishop's College School who fell in the Second World War. J. F. Acer, J. O. Alexander, G. H. Armstrong, G. E. Auld, E. M. Alan Parker, J. A. Aylwin, E. R. Bennett, H. H. Bennett, E. F. H. Boothroyd, Andrew Brakey, J. P. Buckley, P. M. Davis, P. W. Davis, R. W. Davis, H. W. Dawson, C. A. Debailly, H. de G. Domville, R. L. Duffett, R. B. Duncan, R. Y. Eaton, L. J. Foss, G. D. Gibson, M. S. Grant. F. H. Grinstadt, W. M. Hale, W. M. T. Hall, E. A. G. Hansen, P. H. A. Hertzberg, G. W. Hess, P. G. Holt, J. W. Cooper, J. D. Johnson, J. K. Johnson, J. A. Kenny, P. G. Leslie, R. A. Lindsay, B. F. Lynn, K. M. McDonald, R. G. McKay, H. E. McKenzie, E. S. Rueg, H. C. Morgan, C. J. P. Ramsey, T. E. Rising, A. R. W. Robinson, J. F. Ross, A. G. Scott, G. M. S. Stairs, G. W. Stairs, G. E. Stark, R. A. Stark, H. E. Stefan, D. R. Stewart, T. T. B. Stoker, Kenneth Stewart, J. K. G. Wallace, R. S. Weir, W. A. Willison, A. R. S. Woodside, H. E. Wood, and in the Korean War, Lieutenant Hugh R. Cleveland.